All right, well, we will officially call the meeting of the Health and Human Services Committee to order. And currently present, we have a quorum of the committee with myself and Councilwoman Marks. I believe Councilman Rader will be joining us. And recognize Director Barry and Director Vargo. And before we do anything else, I'll move to approve the minutes of the, let's see, of the February 27th meeting. Motion, and I'll second. All those in favor? Aye, and that motion passes. So we will turn to Director Barry, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson Keppel. Tonight, I have the pleasure of bringing before the Health and Human Services Committee correspondence about a program we are starting over at Cove Community Center with our partners here, Jim Joyner and Lori Joyner, called MeWe. So it's a family support and education group. But I will, for the most part, cede my time to the experts, which are our two friends in the room here. And if we have any other further questions about the administration of it, I'd be happy to answer them. But I think they'll be able to provide a real good background on what it's all about.
Fantastic. All right, Mr. Joyner, if you want to come on up, or Dr. Joyner, I'm not sure if I used the right. Okay, Jim is preferred. Right?
It is my pleasure to be here and to share some information with you. I have prepared folders, so there are folders, 5 folders that I put together for you that has some printed information in it that you can take with you. Let me first introduce myself in the way of my background, who I am. I'm a licensed independent chemical dependency counselor, clinical supervisor. In the state of Ohio, through our professional credentialing board, that's the highest level of licensure that one can get in the field, addiction field. It's master's level to access that particular licensure today. I've worked in the field for over 50 years professionally. Treatment, prevention, intervention. I've held positions in some of the county supported, like the addiction board, county addiction board, some of the agencies. The last part of these several last years of my career, I've been in private practice, and my focus has been on families who have been impacted by loved ones' substance use disorder. And if you're not familiar with that term, I'm talking about addiction, drug addiction, alcohol and other drug addiction. And one of the realities that I quickly noted in working with families, and particularly with parents who are struggling with their addicted sons and daughters, that there were very few resources available, resources that gave them kind of education and information up front, and a support system where they could connect with others, realize they're not alone, lots of people like us. And so about 23 years ago, this program that I'm doing now that we are offering here in Lakewood is designed specifically to help family members, significant others who have someone in their life, family member, son, daughter, spouse, sibling, parent, who's been struggling with alcohol or other drug misuse and or addiction. They don't have to be formally addicted. They may be in treatment, they may not be in treatment. But it's to help empower those persons, because when you understand the dynamic, there is so much misinformation that society holds about those who suffer from addiction. If I were to challenge the audience and I said, just picture in your mind what your belief, your reality, the typical, let's say, heroin addict or heroin addicted person looks like, or the person who has alcohol use disorder. And a lot of people will conjure that stereotype, kind of homeless, jobless, kind of the throwaways in society. Those people like living that way. And the reality is that when you look at the majority of people who suffer from addiction, you can no more walk down the street and pick them out as you could persons who suffer from hypertension, diabetes, and so on. There's so much misinformation and so much misunderstood about addiction. Most people believe that it's a choice. Science, we know today, tells us that it's not a choice, that addiction is the direct result of the repetitive use of very powerful psychoactive substances. And for some people in their life, those changes literally rewire the brain. And without it going into a long, detailed lecture about how that happens, it basically is a disease of choice. In other words, that prefrontal cortex, which is the rational, logical part of the brain we're all using right now, is not able to manage that limbic system, that primitive part of the brain that's kind of the go, go, go part. And there's a segment of people who are more prone to those changes because of risk factors and primarily because of genetics. When that happens, and one of the uniquenesses about this addiction is that the diagnostic criteria for determining addiction, out of the 11 criteria, 9 of those 11 criteria are behavioral. So this is not kind of a disease that we can take a blood sample and look in a microscope and say, aha, alcoholism or substance use disorder. And so again, society looks at the behavior and says bad people. You know, you've overdosed 3 times, you like living like that, you lost your children to family and children's services, chronically unemployed, a doctor told you you better quit drinking or you're going to die. Well, not only does that person suffer catastrophic events in their life, but there's that ripple effect. And those closest to them. When we look at statistics, recent 2002 Center for Disease Control estimates that the number in America of persons who qualify for the criteria to meet substance use disorder, 46.3 million people, age 12 or older. We know for each one of them, they impact 3 to 5 other people. So if you quickly do the math, and those 3 to 5 people primarily are family members, we're talking of millions of people who suffer. This community, like any community, has addiction, has persons living in the community. It respects no economic, no ethnic, no racial, geographic boundaries. It is an equal opportunity condition. Those families that suffer may not even know that their loved one suffers from addiction. All they know is husband drinks a lot, or son or daughter has behaviors changed drastically. I don't know who they are anymore. In families where there's active untreated addiction, healthcare costs are greater for those folks. They tend to access mental health care and other social service more and more. The impact and the ripple effect is profound. We also know that when folks get the education and the support they need, and we're talking about the concerned others, the family members, so they can posture and position themselves in a healthy way in response to that loved one, that those costs also go down because families become healthier. The dynamic based on the disorder that happens in families is, because I don't understand addiction, and I'll use this, and I think it's probably the best pictorial kind of framework. Think of a loved one that's just stepped in quicksand. That's my son, my daughter. I love them, want to help them. And I don't know what else to do, so I decide to jump in, and I position myself under him, and I begin holding my breath and treading that muck and mire. And people do this for years, financially, emotionally, room and board. I mean, years and years and years. To no avail. Nothing gets better. As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. I'm getting more disordered, dysfunctional, the relationship's more dysfunctional, and they're not getting any better. That's kind of what happens in addiction. I don't know what I'm dealing with, but I know I got to do something. And so we do a lot of somethings, but nothing is helping. This program is designed through education and support to provide a platform so that family members can get out of that disordered relationship, get their feet on solid ground where they can respond to, I love you, but I also understand today what's going on with you. You have and suffer from substance use disorder. That is a brain disorder, which is the direct result of the repetitive use of very powerful psychoactive substances. I didn't cause it. I can't cure it. I can't control it. So that education process begins to give us the insight and the impetus we need to let go of that very disordered connection and reconnect in a healthy way. I love you. I hate your disease. I can't fix it for you, but I can support you in you moving to a healthier position to do what you need to do. So again, we see when families enter in this kind of a program and significant others, that the rate of access to treatment centers goes up for those people who suffer from addiction. They tend to stay in treatment longer, and the outcomes for sustained, uninterrupted sobriety are greater and longer. So what happens is it's a win-win for everybody, not only that family system, but the greater, larger family system and community. Don Koyas, who is a Native American, who's worked in the field for years and years and has had amazing success. His recovery program that he founded years ago was called the White Bison Program. And he, on some of the reservations where alcoholism addiction rates were in the 90+%, has literally, through his efforts, turned it around to almost zero. Phenomenal success. And I'm going to share with you, not exact words, but basically a quote from him. He said, if you have 100 acres of sick trees, each tree longing to get well, and you take each tree away from those 100 acres and you get that tree well, if you bring that tree back into that toxic soil, it's going to get sick again, and no one should be surprised. Our program, to just kind of shrink that down, if you take a person who suffers from addiction and you don't treat the family, and that person comes back into a very toxic, uneducated, misinformed family, it's a setup for that person in terms of consistently staying and doing what they need to do, because people are holding resentments, they're still angry at you, owe me money, you went to treatment, why aren't you fixed? This treats the soil so that that person, when they do come back, has a platform by which to continue to build on their recovery. I say this in all sincerity and honesty, and for no points personally, but I applaud Lakewood in the leadership here for having the insight to address this problem, which exists, like I said, in communities in a substantial way. Because one of the choices communities have, we could buy more Narcan kits and fentanyl test strips. All those things do is treat the symptom. I'm not saying they're not important, they save lives, but they're just treating the symptom. This kind of a program addresses kind of plugging the hole in the bridge so that the people who are falling through aren't having lifeguards just hopefully pulling them out, but it is changing that environment, it's changing the soil so that folks get healthier, they grow, and that benefits the community in that reverse ripple effect. I will stop here and entertain any questions or comments you have. I can give you the specifics. The meeting that Lakewood sponsors is Saturday mornings. It's a 2-hour meeting. It's from 10 in the morning till 12 noon. The meeting is a hybrid. It's both a virtual and in person, and the in-person portion meets at Cove Community Center. And so persons can, in the community, who are concerned about a loved one's use, they may or may not be in treatment, whatever, can access that program one of two ways and be a part of that. There's 12 weeks in one rotation of the program, so if someone would say, well, how long? One complete cycle, the exposure to all the education we do and to get a good foundation. Beyond that, you can continue to attend as long as you want. And there's no fee, obviously, for participants. And again, I can't speak enough. And we have thousands of evaluations that recently we hired a firm to look at, and the outcomes were in the 99th percentile in terms of success and effectiveness and that kind of thing. So again, you are really in a position to make truly a difference that will continue to grow and to continue to help those individuals who come, and again, the community in general. Any questions I could entertain specifically that would be helpful or insightful for you?
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. This is great information and very excited about this program. And I want to thank the administration and Director Berry for getting this set up for us. I think it's a great asset to our Lakewood community. I had a basic question. So I know you talked about the two components, the education group and the support group.
Right.
So are those both happening on those Saturdays, or how is
Yes,
that
the
structured?
first part of the program is always education, and we cover topics like neurobiology of addiction, and we do it in a way so that the layperson can understand. We help them learn to reaffirm healthy boundaries. We help them understand how to make connections without trying to fix it. That term that most people hear, enabling. Well, enabling is usually I had to do something, so, you know, I give them the money and it's not working. And it's all attempting to be connected. We teach them to be connected in a healthy way. And that sometimes means saying, no, Chad, I'm not going to give you the $50 because I know you're going to use it for drugs. I love you. You need to go to treatment. You need to go get the help you need. So the education happens. When the education is over, we spend minutes so that if people have questions, we process it. And then we start the self-help support group. And it's not intrusive. Nobody's made to, you know, we don't bring you virtually to the center of the room and put a spotlight on you and say, well, how you feeling? What's going on? It's not that at all. People engage at their level of comfort. And usually, typically people, the first couple meetings, you know, these are still kind of strangers, but as it evolves and they get a feel for it, they become more and more engaged, and they really do, and I'm not using empty words, they take ownership. This is my group. Oh, this is my meeting, you know, I look forward to, and there is a true sense of connection that people made, have never met each other face to face. And if I might, just one anecdotal example of that. We had a lady who's been coming to one of the other meetings for 7 years. We have a person who's been coming now about 2 years that lives in Orlando, Florida. One of the ladies that's been coming said, I'm going to be in Florida, and they happen to attend the same Wednesday group. And I just said kind of casually, you should hook up with Lisa while you're there. And they did, make a long story short. And they said when we met, it was as if we were old high school buddies. It's like we genuinely knew each other, and that's the genuineness of that connection, as we were talking earlier. We underestimate the importance of healthy human connection. It's so vital for us, particularly when we've been so disconnected, many families, for years and years and years. And for the first time, I'm feeling good about myself. I'm making healthy choices. I'm starting to be able to sleep. I'm able to say, no, I love you. I'm not going to. And again, they build on that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is so critical. I mean, in just general human relationships, but having that community helps build the resiliency to survive that. So I would be interested, you mentioned the outcomes that you had studied. You don't have to go into that now, but I would welcome that information. I'm kind of an outcome measures nerd, so I would really love to see that information.
And we can provide that
Yeah.
for you.
I'm just curious to see. Any colleagues have questions? Councilwoman Marks.
Jim, could you tell me how many people attended the in-person meeting and how many were at the virtual meeting on Saturday?
Well, we just started, remember, May 13th. So we're just in the beginnings of getting word out and really building up awareness. We had 6 in person and 3 virtually.
Good, good. I mean, 1 is good. I mean, you have to start someplace, so. I'm so glad that this program is available to the residents here in Lakewood. I think it's a great program, and I'm sure that more people will be joining along the way. So thanks for the work that you do.
Thank you. And again, and I mean this sincerely, for what Lakewood's doing, municipality, city, you guys are way ahead of other places. And I think you really have something to wear proudly, and this should be a part of when you speak about how unique this community is and forward-thinking, to really demonstrate to other communities similar to say, we're doing this. Because the easiest thing, again, is to Narcan and this, or put it in, this is substantive in terms of really making a difference on a human feeling level than those, other kind of quick and dirty things. And again, I'm not underplaying the importance of Narcan. Save lives, definitely, but this is unique to, and credit to your leadership.
For sure. We talk about intersectional safety, that if we just treat the end, the Narcan and the jailing and that sort of thing, we're not treating the underlying issues. And certainly we see that with the number of children, being taken from homes, so that if we can address the whole family unit, it goes a long way. Colleagues over here, any questions? Councilman Rader.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here, and thank you for your nearly 50 years of service in this field, and for bringing this to Lakewood, Chad, the mayor. Appreciate that. What can we do to get the word out? How do we get people referred to the program? What kind of pipeline is built? You mentioned getting the word out there. Anything that we can do to help promote this program? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's something that you have a system already at the city where you're referring people. I just want to know how best people can get plugged in, because it's so valuable.
Chad, do you want to?
Yeah. We've started to advertise broadly. We had a large article in the Observer. Chitra Walker is actually one of my great staff members. She brought this program to me before she was even on our team a couple years ago. So she's really to be credited for bringing this here, and the mayor for supporting the program. But we've had a number of different advertisements on our social media. We can share that with you all, and it'd be very helpful to just kind of share that broadly on your social media networks.
Sure. Madam Chair, Ms. Walker.
And Collaborative is also putting it in newsletters to all of our partner agencies and any other organizations that serve families, many of the families who may have substance use disorder.
Chitra, do you want to come up to the
Yeah,
microphone?
if you could come up so that anyone at home can hear you.
Well, actually, our collaborative, our Lakewood Area Collaborative under the city, we are also using our newsletters and other means to reach out to the agencies that work with us, and also who send families to us who have these kinds of problems. And as the word gets out, people will start joining. It's, again, everyone must remember the stigma that surrounds some of this, and it's hard for people to just jump in and come into it like a public meeting. Mm-hmm. So we hope that as word spreads, people will come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're definitely addressing the gatekeepers. So obviously law enforcement has a role in this. First responders, I mean, if there's an overdose they attend to, they can have information to give to the family and say, obviously there's a loved one that's having some problems. Here's a resource for you besides for them. So the gatekeepers, the schools, we want to speak to the counselors in the schools and get that out to them so that those families who have come forward, so slowly but surely it'll build up. But amazingly, the best advertising for the program is actually those that come and share it word of mouth.
Yeah, of course, they're building that community. I had a follow-up question about that. So I see on your schedule, it looks like you have 2 complete cycles of the education systems or program scheduled, and then with the support group following after that. Is there, if we're building these communities of support networks, are we're continuing this after this initial approach, or what's the plan? I just don't want anyone to be left, they've built this community network and then we don't have it.
So we are utilizing the One Ohio opioid settlement funding to put on this program. I believe we have enough funding for probably 40 cycles currently. Every year we receive approximately $7,000. We're also looking at the larger opioid settlement monies that are coming into the county that we can submit RFP for this program. So we fully intend to support this as long as we possibly can. And I think we have a very good foundation with the One Ohio settlement.
Councilman Baker, did you have anything? It's okay if you don't.
I don't, other than to, thank the administration for the leadership on this. I know, addiction, obviously the person experiencing it has their issues, but I'm so glad to hear that this involves kind of their network and their family, because, I know in my family and most of us, on council, just statistically have a family member or a close loved one that has experienced addiction, and it can be a lot. So it's nice to know that in Lakewood we're being proactive in offering these resources because it can be a difficult thing to get through. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just point of clarity, so if someone missed the May 13th meeting, they don't have to wait till the August
No.
to start, right?
The program's designed so it's open-ended, so you can begin any time in the process, and the recommendation is that you allow yourself at least one exposure to all 12 sessions, and beyond that, you can continue to go and grow. You build on that. I mean, it's like fine-tuning electronics. The more the better it gets in the understanding, and that's part of the phenomenon.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Joyner, Ms. Joyner, and Ms. Walker. Always good to see you, for joining us tonight. We are at time and for our next meeting, so with no further business. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge Chitra for a wonderful article in the Lakewood Observer. It was a great article that was very heartfelt. So thank you for sharing your experience and your knowledge. Good job.
Yes. Indeed. So with no further business, the Health and Human Services Committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.